Just arrived in Naples, Napoli.
Even these days, people are still warning about the end of the world. There's a vague sense of lurking danger here.
A little bit further down Garibaldi Way, I come out at the seafront over here, and we should be able to get a look at Vesuvius. Imagine living in a town overlooking a volcano. I think Vesuvius is the one on the left. I think that's the active volcano. And this is one of the most amazing views you could have for a town, and yet it's really ugly here. It's just a dirty kind of dockside place. You think there'd be cafes and restaurants and things all along here, but they don't seem interested. To think that that volcano could explode at any minute.
Circumvesuviana Railway takes you to Pompeii. Get on the train where it starts, not at Napoli Garibaldi.
And you see it's nice and empty at the moment. You see what it's like at the next stop, Napoli Garibaldi later. Pick the seat on the left side. Try to pick a window that's reasonably clear and not covered in graffiti. See what I mean about being crowded.
It's amazing how many people choose to live so close to Vesuvius. That's why it's sometimes considered the world's most dangerous volcano. This is the station before Pompeii, so get ready.
Originally the city was surrounded by walls, and this is one of the entrances, Porta Mariana. You'd be going into Pompeii through one of the entrance places. This is the Temple of Venus, one of the first things you come to. They had all these temples to different gods, it didn't do them much good. It's so strange to be walking around the actual ruins of the town, and you can see the volcano there in the distance. Wow, you've got to come and see this. It's almost too much to take in, it's just so vast. They'd already had a series of earthquakes 17 years before, which they were just recovering from, so a lot of Pompeii was already in ruins. This is Pompeii's amphitheatre. This must have been the entrance for the gladiators. It's like going down to a pier in Wembley. Here you are now entering into an amphitheatre. Roaring crowds all around, and I can pretend I'm a gladiator.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Look how well preserved it is. And see, Pompeii is how we learn so much about a Roman town. What these places were like. The theatre, the amphitheatre. Was it a good idea to put this horrible thing in the middle? Kind of destroys the atmosphere. This is where you see the casts, these famous casts.
There's a weak spot in the Earth's crust beneath Vesuvius. In AD 79, molten rock has been leaking out for centuries, but it's blocked by a thick plug of rock in the neck of the volcano. The pressure has been growing and growing for years, until finally it explodes at around 1 PM on the 24th of August. Ash and pumice is ejected at supersonic speed. It forms a churning column rising high into the sky. People of Pompeii have never seen anything like this before. There is no word in Latin for volcano. Run or stay. People make their choices.
What are we going to do? The house is strong, the walls thick, We stay and pray.
And these are the actual houses where they tried to hide in or shelter in from the volcano when it was erupting, thinking that they'd be safe. And the roofs all collapsed. Everything was covered and preserved. And then a famous Italian archaeologist in the 19th century had the brilliant idea of, when they found cavities, of filling them full of plaster. And what they found when they looked at the plaster casts was people in their last death throes. This place is quite terrifying, really. You can clearly see people just can't breathe. This is what it looked like when they were excavating it. It must be 100 years old, these pictures. This is how they were actually found. That must be the guy who invented this cask technique. This one here is the one which you can see over here. I don't know if this is the best way to do this at all. I think it would have been better to have left them where they found them. This is the house of the tragic poet.
Perché tutti i simboli perché
Look how big the stones were in the streets, the cobbled streets. The gaps in between would have been filled with smaller stones to make it fairly flat. This side street here is in even better condition. Look how carefully the stones have been picked so that they all interlock. It's amazingly well preserved. Look, the streets, the original streets are here. You see why this is the most important archaeological site in Europe. As far as I can tell, this is the gladiators' barracks. And over here is the Grand Theatre. You're walking around the outside of a theatre. And this, you can see why Pompeii gives us such a great record of what Roman life was like. And I learnt so much from it. So you enter into the theatre. And straight away you can tell that the acoustics are perfect. They're talking down there, everybody can hear what they're saying. This house is pretty amazing because here it's got this marble table with lions holding the top of the table, and on the top it says Casca Longus. And Casca Longus was the first person to get the knife into Caesar. He was the first person to stab Julius Caesar in 45 BC. That doesn't mean that this was Casco Longus's house, but what happened was that after Caesar had been killed, all the possessions of the people who stabbed him were confiscated and sold. So the owner of this house bought this table, which was owned by him. Must have been relatively well off. And this would have been another of the roofs that collapsed, because that's not the original roof, of course. This is a fast food place, of which there are many in Pompeii. Opens out onto the street, so you can come here and get a quick meal.